Um, this are the major parts you should be looking at. When you get the document, which if you don't have it yet, I'm going to share today because we'll be concluding on ISO 27001 today. So this is the structure. You have the clauses. We've established the fact that ISO 27001 is a process, people, technology standard because it's excuse me, it's unique in the sense that it's implemented in such a way that it drives your processes. You have to align the standard with your processes, especially when you are set as an organization to derive maximum benefits from the standard. When you are not just looking at it from the point of compliance. So regulation says we should comply. The regulator says we should comply. Let's just comply. Let's tick the boxes and let everybody go and sleep. That's one of the shenanigans in security these days. But when you are determined as an organization or as implementers or managers of your organization's security program to improve your organization by actually implementing these standards in a way that benefits the organization rather than just for compliance sake. ISO 27001 is so unique that it can be incorporated into your processes. So you have the clause 4, which talks about context of the organization. Please mute your mic if you are not speaking or making any comment. Clause 5 talks about leadership. Clause 6, clause 7. So this is a more detailed content of the various clauses. I don't know if you can see the screen very well. Don't worry, I'll soon share the document where you see the clauses clearly. So if you look at clause 4, context of the organization, under the standard, there are several requirements. For example, 4.1, which says that understanding the organization and its context. 4.2, understanding the needs and expectations of interested parties, determining the scope of your information security management system and the information security management system itself. So ideally, you would have evidences, okay, as an organization in terms of documents, in terms of processes, practices, activities to show that you have implemented, because these are actually requirements, okay? So understanding the organization and its context. So like I said, before, ISO 27001 is about, talked about it being about the process. So you can't, we've talked about aligning your information security program with your business objectives, which ISO 27001 makes you achieve. So you can't align your security program with your business without understanding the business itself, okay? So in the understanding the organization and its context, you are looking at what is the organization about? What are our values? Okay, what is our culture? Okay, what's our objective? What's our purpose? Our missions and our goals. These are the things that you will put into your document. Okay, there must be a document. ISO 27001 is also about documented information. When you get abreast with the standard, you'll see in so many aspects of standard where it says this requirement must be as a documented information. So what that means is that it must be documented. It's not something you just express with your mouth, okay? Number one, it must be documented. Number two, it must be seen in your practices, in your activities, in your process, as an organization. So the context of the organization needs to be um, identified and stated in a document that this is what the business is about. Okay, these are our values, these are our mission statement, these are our vision statement. Okay, these are our culture. Okay. 4.2, understanding the needs and expectations of interested parties. Of course, you need to identify who are interested. So under your interested parties, your clients, your customers will be an interested party. Your employees will be an interested party. Regulators will be an interested party. Shareholders, okay, the board will be an interested party. Authority, maybe, for example, under GDPR, for example, you have ICO managing GDPR in the UK. So such, security, data privacy regulators will be an interested party because they are actually interested in knowing that you are conforming with security and data privacy rules. Okay, so there'll be a document where you list these interested parties and their needs and expectations vis-a-vis information security. Okay, 4.3 says determining the scope of the information security management system. There has to be a scope. So there are cases where an organization exists, but this organization has branches. Okay, probably one or two branches somewhere else. So a decision has to be made whether you are implementing ISO 27001 throughout the entire organization, the head office and the two branches, or probably for now it's because of maybe cost reasons, stuff like that. You are limiting it to the head office alone. Okay, that's an example. Another example might be that because certain departments, certain units are critical than others within the organization, you only want to implement ISO 27001 in operations and probably finance. Okay, you want to exclude the rest for now, probably for cost reasons and stuff like that. So that scope will be stated clearly that this is the scope of ISO 27001. Okay, and then information security management system. It's where you describe how you intend to design your information security management system. Then clause 5 is about leadership. We talked about leadership commitment. So leadership has to show that demonstrate that they are committed, to the information security program of the organization. Okay, so leadership has to set the tone for policy. Okay, and then of course there must be a document, okay, that shows the organogram, so to speak, of the organization. In information security, we've talked about the importance of accountability. Okay, so in ISO 27001, it must be seen that the organization has hierarchy. Roles and responsibilities are clearly identified. Okay, and everyone within the organization knows his or her role and responsibilities. So auditors will be asking for your organogram. Okay, they want to see your organogram, and they want to actually see it in practice. They probably talk with some, of the people you've identified within your organogram to confirm, their offices. In ISO 27001 audit, you will see, especially towards the end, you will see auditors talking with your leadership, not necessarily the CEO, but if the CEO is available, why not? They can also talk with the CEO. They want to talk with an executive level person, ask some few questions to actually show that will demonstrate that, yes, the executive management are actually aware, and know their responsibilities as far as the information security program and, ISO 27001 implementation is concerned. They will also probably ask for, depending on the organization. In my organization, for example, we call it InfoSec governance meetings. So we hold the InfoSec team briefs the executive management. Standard is twice a month, but sometimes because of schedules of senior management, they are not always available, at least once in a month. And the minutes of the InfoSec presentation will be documented, and the minutes of this meeting will also be documented. So these are the things auditors will be checking, okay, when auditing you for ISO 27001, that what can you show to us that, okay, management leadership is actually involved in information security matters. So you need to present the minutes, of this, briefings InfoSec is having with, with executive management. There might be risk review meetings, there might be governance meetings, and some other kind of meetings, just to demonstrate that leadership is actually involved, in information security, because that is not the case in every organizations. There are still lots of organizations, well, maybe a few, who still don't, whose leaders don't still see security as, a business issue. Okay, unfortunately, for such an organization, that is a very, very dangerous path to take. Okay, so in clause 6, which talks about planning, so 6.1 actions to address risks and opportunities. So in clause 6, what you want to do is to conduct a SWOT analysis of your organization. What are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? What are our opportunities? What are the threats? Okay, and then you start to take actions that would, address the threats, especially the threats, okay, that you have that you've identified. Sorry. And then 6.2, information security objectives and planning. This is where you set security objectives. Okay. Typically, every organization would, even if you don't have, well, ISO 27001 will force you to have in that. What this place is saying is that, what are your security objectives? So, say for instance, you have not implemented DLP, for instance, data loss prevention solution, and it's a requirement under ISO 27001. So you might want to identify that as an objective that you would love to achieve. Okay, so there will be a document where you state your objectives. It could be objectives for the year. Okay, you list them out, and then you state how you intend to achieve these objectives. You state when you intend to achieve these objectives. Okay, and some other informations like that. These are some of the documents that auditors will be reviewing. As you can see from what I'm saying, you can see that all these things will be part of the things you'll be doing day in, day out. Clause 7 talks about support, okay, of course, from leadership in terms of providing the resources, ensuring that competent hands are in charge of your information security program. Okay. So under competency, auditors will typically, you have to demonstrate that for example, if you've appointed an ISMS manager, usually an organization will, if you've implemented ISO 27001, someone must be appointed as your ISMS manager. So this ISMS manager typically would you'll have undergone training, okay, one form of training or the other in ISO 27001 implementation, okay. So, and how can you prove that you've undergone a training if not by your certificate? So one of the things you'll be doing if you're implementing ISO 27001 is to ensure that those in charge are trained and then they'll be certified. So it is this certificate that you will show as evidence, okay, that those managing your information security program, those managing your ISO 27001 are competent, to manage it very, very well. Awareness is about, as part of if you're implementing it for the first time, for example, you need to show that you have created awareness about ISO 27001. You would do an awareness session with your members of staff. You do an awareness session with executive management, because these audiences are different. Okay, what they need to know are slightly different. Okay, if possible, you'll also do an awareness with the board. Okay, because ultimately security is the responsibility of the business owners. Okay, so you need to demonstrate that you have done awareness, you've created awareness. Okay, policy has been put on the intranet for members of staff to access and go through. As a matter of fact, there are some documents that you must obtain sign off by every single member of staff that they've gone through this stuff. For example, the information security, the generalized information security document of the organization, probably acceptable use of assets. These are important documents that every individual, every member of staff must append their signature that they've gone through the document and that they are aware. So communication, ongoing awareness. You have to demonstrate that there is internal communication as far as information security is concerned, and there is also external communication where it's necessary. Documented information, I talked about that earlier. There must be a way, document as far as information security, as far as ISO 27001, there must be a way they are organized, okay? Thankfully, we'll be implementing ISO 27001 for Black and Scott after this workshop. So a lot of these things will be coming to light on how it actually translates. So operation is when you actually now translate what you've done in planning, okay, in clause 6, okay, into real work. That's where you remember that I didn't talk about 6.2 under planning, okay, information security objectives and planning to achieve them. Under that's when you do things around determining your risk criteria. Okay, you determine how you would you determine your risk management process. Okay, how you would go about identifying risk. What will be your risk criteria? That's where you determine whether you are using a qualitative risk methodology or a quantitative one. Okay, what is low, what is high, what is medium, and if you want to use a quantitative one, that's when you determine that. So in clause 8, which is operation, that's when you now go into the work of real risk assessment. So that's where you identify your risk, you analyze them, trying to determine their severity if they happen to crystallize, and then you prioritize. Okay, is it really important? Is it not important? And then you treat this risk, okay, by implementing controls. This is what you do under clause 8. So under clause 8, you will have your risk management policy. You will have your statement of applicability, a very, very important document in ISO 27001. And then you conduct the real work of risk analysis, which we are going to do after we are going to go into that session. Real risk analysis, a little bit of threat intelligence, because they are related in the next chapter. So clause 9 talks about performance evaluation. We said earlier that ISO 27001 is also about continuous improvement. Okay, so you don't just conduct your risk analysis, implement your controls, and that's all. No. In ISO 27001, you have to monitor your information security program by typically organizations will have a performance evaluation document that spells out how they intend to, monitor their information security program. Also, internal audit, very, very important. As a matter of fact, if internal audits is absent, that would be a major non-conformity, and you are not like, if you have ISO 27001 certification before, and throughout the year you didn't conduct a single internal audit, that's a major non-conformity, and it's not likely that you will be recertified for that year. So you must conduct internal audit. That's where you have things like you show documents like your audit plan. Okay, your audit plan. Also, you can see 9.3 management review. So after the internal audit, the reports of the internal auditors would be part of the inputs that will be considered in the management review. In the management review, it will be chaired by executive management, either the real executive management themselves, or if they are not available, they will delegate that authority to a member of the senior management. Okay, so for example, in a bank, most likely the bank CEO won't be able to attend ISO 27001 management review, which usually is done once in a year, just for ISO 27000, even though there should have been other governance meetings that must have been taking place, like I said earlier. But for this management review, it's usually done probably twice, or for most organizations, once in a year, where ISO 27001 format briefing will be carried out. So usually the output of the auditor's report will form part of the things that will be considered by management. They look at the audit report. What are the non-conformities? What's been done? How do we address these non-conformities? And how do we address them and stuff like that? So that's a very key aspect under ISO 27001. And then clause 10, it talks about improvement, where you address like I said earlier, your non-conformity, and then your corrective action. It has to be in place. Don't worry, all this will make sense when we actually implement, but you need to know that this is the structure of clause 4 to 5. There is something I should have said it before now, but it's still a good time. A major challenge for standards is the need to be current with the ever-changing, ever-dynamic threat landscape. Every day there are new threats on the horizon, but how fast can these documents, that some people have gathered to work on to produce, probably over a period of 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, and then something new comes up, and then you want them to, it's not really practical So that's a major challenge for standards. It's not ISO alone, NIST, PCI DSS. So last year, 2022, a new version of ISO 27001 was released in May officially, called ISO 27001 2022 version. Prior to the 2022 version, the last time a major update was done to ISO 27001 was in 2013. So you can see the space between 2013 and 2022. 2013, AI was not, artificial intelligence was not really, it was a fad, but it's not really intense, okay? LLM, descriptive AI was not a thing in 2013, and these are real issues now, okay? So that's a challenge for standards and guidelines and all these documents. The same thing for PCI DSS. It was I think it was 2021 that a new version of PCI DSS called version 4 came out. Prior to then, I think the last time for PCI DSS was in, I can't remember that particular year. That was version 3.21. That's the last version before version 4 came out. If you look at NIST, NIST 800, 500, NIST 853, there have been so many revisions. I think the last one we have now is probably revision 4 and stuff like that. So you need to bear that in mind, that, after a period of time, these standards do change. And so there is a grace period there will typically be a grace period for organizations to transit. So currently there are organizations who are still using ISO 27001 2013 version. And they have a grace period, I think, up to, you can still certify against 2013 till probably end of this year or end of next year. I'm not sure now. It's available on the ISO and in so many publications. But I think from 2025, no organization will be allowed to certify against the 2013 version again. Every organization must have transited into the 2022 version. And there are a number of changes, even within these clauses, okay? Very little changes within clauses 5 and 10, but the major changes is in ISO 27002. And that leads us to where we are now. So when I say ISO 27002, if you are very, very still, you must have said we are talking about ISO 27001. Which one is ISO 27002 again? Now, for ISO, there is usually, for every major standard, like I shared last week, I shared quality, the various popular ISOs we have. ISO 9000, which is a quality management system. ISO 45001, which is, I think, occupational health and safety. There is one for food safety. There's another one for environmental safety. And like I said, there are job opportunities in this. Don't forget that there are job opportunities in these ISOs because these ISOs are being implemented by certain organizations. These ISOs are being audited by certain organizations. So if you have background knowledge in an area that is related to any of these standards, it's something you can take up. It's something you might want to delve into. Okay, might want to delve into to understand the standard and probably become an auditor and work for all these certification bodies that certify organizations. Okay, so for every of these standards, there's usually a family of standards. Okay, with different functions. While ISO 27001 is the permits my Yoruba Opomulero, like the king, okay, the cornerstone of the 27,000 family. There are other standards, okay, that act as guides, okay, just like the game of chess, when you have your pawns, you know, your rookie and all those pieces, okay, protecting the king, okay. It's the same thing with your ISO 27000 and your ISO 27001. So there are other standards. For example, if you look at this, ISO 27000 describes the vocabulary, okay, an overview and vocabulary of the entire 27001 family of standards. And then you see ISO 27006. That's in this second bar, which talks about requirements for organizations that are providing audit and certification of ISMS. So when you hear of NQA, NQA is a popular certification body for ISO 27001 in the UK. Okay, this organization must have been certified against ISO 27006. If not, they can't be able to certify others. Okay, ISO 27001 is the only one painted in red to show you that is the center of attraction of everything. Then you have ISO 27701, which dwells more on privacy, okay, just like the GDPR. So ISO 27000, ISO 27701 is the GDPR of ISO 27001, okay? And then you have other general guides like the ISO 27002, which we are going now, and I will explain, okay? You have ISO 27003, which talks about how to implement, okay? If you want to know how to implement an ISMS, go and study. All these are documents, okay? And the only one an organization is certified against is ISO 27001, okay? All others are just guidelines, okay? They are guidelines, you know, that will help you to implement ISO 27001. And then for your monitoring, measurement, analysis, and evaluation, that's +9. If you want more information on +9, okay, you can study ISO 27004. ISO 27005 is on +6 and 8 because it addresses information security risk management. Okay, so if you want to implement ISO 27001 and you want to conduct a risk assessment of your organization in accordance with the requirements of ISO 27001, this document would be very, very useful to you. As a matter of fact, I encourage everybody to study ISO 27005, okay, because it is the bread and butter, so to speak, of information security risk management as far as ISO 27001 is concerned. There is another standard called ISO 31000. It is not here because it's not a member of ISO 27001. I'm just digressing to that. ISO 31000 is ISO's requirements on how to conduct risk assessment. Okay, as a matter of fact, there are you can obtain a certification. You can become a certified ISO 31000 risk manager. There is a certification like that, ISO 31000 risk manager. What that means is that you have been certified as a risk manager as far as the risk management framework of ISO, International Standard Organization, is concerned. For most people who are risk specialists, okay, they are very, very familiar with ISO 31000. When we get into risk management, we'll be talking about various kinds of risk management framework. ISO 31000 is one of the ones we'll be talking. You have ISO 31000, you have COSO, you have ISACA also has an IT risk framework. You have there's a popular one. I can't recollect now. So ISO 27005 is an information security risk management guideline that guides you on how to actually go about conducting a risk assessment. Okay. And then you have ISO 27, all others like that. And then you have other industry guys. There are so many other ones. You have ISO 37032, which is about security. Okay, it's under the ISO 27000 family. I think there's also one that is popular that's not here. I can't recollect for now. Having said this, now let me go back to this place. I don't know if you can see my cursor. My cursor is on Annex A. So part of this document, ISO 27001 document, there's a part called Annex A. Okay, remember that in clause 8, we talked about risk treatment. Okay, in this risk treatment, you will be implementing controls, okay, to address the risk that you have identified, analyzed, and evaluated in your risk assessment process. Now, this Annex A now shows you the various ways you can start to address, the risk that you have identified. In the 2013 version, they are divided into, I think, 16 or is it 18 different sections with a total of 114 controls. But in the new 2022 version, okay, before I get into that, let's just do a brief introduction into ISO 27002. Yeah, so that's the official name: information security, cybersecurity, and privacy protection. The keyword here is the last three words: information security controls. They are a list of controls. It provides a reference set of generic information security controls, generic in the sense that they are general ways you can implement your controls, including implementation guidance. The 2022 version has 93 controls, unlike the 2013 version, which has 114 controls. The reason is because is that during the update, they've merged some controls together. Some controls have remained the same, and then they've also introduced some new controls. Of course, that should be welcome, because we are talking of 2013 to 2022. Definitely, there will have been some issues that were not addressed in 2013 that will now be addressed in the 2022 version. Organization controls, people controls, physical controls, technology controls. You will understand that in the next page. So, if you look at this, okay, if you look at this page, what you have on your left is the structure of ISO 27002 2013 version. That's what you have on your left. So in the 2013 version, like I said earlier, how many sections do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 14 sections. Okay. Information security policies. Under information security policies, it is broken down further into 2 controls. Annex 6, organization of information security. You have 7 controls under it. Like that, human resource security, asset management security, access control security. However, in the 2022 version, these 14 divisions has now been organized into just 4 divisions, namely organizational controls, people controls, physical controls, and technological controls. And if you total, you can see the number of controls under each. If you total them together, you'll have 93 controls compared to the 114 controls you have in the 2013 2013 version. Now, let me share with you the 20, let's see the 20, let's see the 2013 version. Let's see. Okay, I think everything is there. Okay. Okay. All right, so the document you have here is the 2013 version of ISO 27001. Okay, this is how the document typically looks like. These are the other parts I told you to disregard: introduction, scope. When you get the document, you can read through all that. But what's important here are the clauses. Clauses 4. You can see the requirements under each clauses. Clauses 5, leadership. Clauses 6, clauses 7, and then the details. You can find the details here. Clauses from clause 4, 4.1. Okay, what's the requirement? 4.2. We won't go into all the details there because I'm confident that we will, by the grace of God, we'll do that as a project. Okay, so but this is the structure of the document. Now, what I want you to see is the annex part of this document. So for 27,001, you have the Annex A part, which lists the controls that I showed to you earlier, divided into 14 sections. Annex 5, where you have 2 controls on information security policies. Annex 6, okay, where you have its own list of controls, which is on organization of information security, human resource security. For example, under human security, you have things like prior to employment, so screening. Okay, so when you take a new role and you see that the organization is conducting background verification, okay, there is an information security reason, okay, behind that. Okay, so a new employee must be screened. During audits, auditor will demand for evidences that shows that you are actually screening your new employees. So you will have to present samples of background checks. Okay, these are sensitive documents, so usually you would have signed an NDA with such a client, before you present such documents to. Of course, NDA is signed with most auditors, external auditors. So you have to demonstrate that you are screening your background, you are screening your new employees. Okay, contractual agreements, okay, has to be worded in such a way that it protects the organization as far as information security and other areas are concerned. Okay, during employment, what is expected, termination, okay, what's expected. Annex 8, asset management, media handling. Annex 9, access control, on and on and on and on, like that. Okay. For the 2022 version, okay, the clauses is clause 4 to 5 is more or less the same thing, just some little changes here and there. This is the 2022 version for ISO 27. You can see 2022 version for ISO 27,000 and ISO 27,001. Okay. So, but if you come to the annex, you will see that, okay, let's use the content to demonstrate that. If you come to the, okay, it's not shown. So let's go to the annex. If you come to the annex, you will see that it has been changed. Instead of the usual sections you have in the 2013 version, you now have Annex 5, which is the organization controls, and then you have the several controls under Annex 5, okay, up to 37. And then you have Annex 6, which talks about people controls, okay. You have and then Annex 7, which talks about fiscal controls, and then Annex 8, which talks about technological controls. Now, that as far as 27,001 is concerned. Now, for 27,002, like we've said earlier, it's an expanded guideline of the control annexes that you are seeing here now in 27,001. So, if you come to, this is the document for 27,002, 2022 version. Now, remember that 27,002 is only for the annexure of controls, okay? The normative, we call them normative clauses. That's where you have context of organization, leadership, planning, support. You will find that in 27,001 document. But in the 27,002, this is a further guideline on the annexure of controls, which is the last section in ISO 27001. So here you have a further breakdown. So for example, organization controls. Let me simply come here. Let's go to organization. This is ISO 27001 document. Okay. So this is organizational controls, policies for information security. Okay. And this is the explanation for the control. Information security policy and topic specific policies shall be defined, okay? Approved by management, published, communicated. So what this control is saying is that management must, okay, define information security policy, even at different topic specific policies like your access control, your clear desk screen control, password complexity control, and all those stuff. And then they must be approved. You will demonstrate that you've approved your policy by showing a copy of signed, approval by senior management, published. Where can employees see these documents? Okay, your intranet, communication through email every now and then, communicated and acknowledged, okay, by relevant personnel and relevant interested parties, okay. Now, if you go to the 2022 version, you will see that this 5.1 has now been expanded to show how you can go about actually implementing that 5.1. So this is your 5.1 under the ISO 27002. So you can see various contexts. There has now been guidance, okay? So you can now read through this place to actually, know how you can. So while this is condensed, 27,002 that's why it is called guidance, okay? It shows how you can now go about, learning more and how to implement you can see it has done examples of such policies include access control policy, fiscal and environmental security, asset management, on and on and on and on. Okay, this 5.2, okay, information security roles and responsibilities. And then it gives you the details of how to, go about implementing that. Okay. Am I communicating?
Absolutely. Yes, I've been following.
I know this part is
yes, you are.
I know this part is a little boring, but don't worry. So I'm just trying to help you, help you have an understanding because what I would expect is that folks should go to sites like Advisera. There are so many very good sites on ISO. Even if you go to ISO, okay, you will find very, very quality information on ISO 27001. I expect those, especially for those who are in the middle of interviews, okay, if they are, preparing for a GRC related interview, okay, and I expect you to, with what you are learning here, go to those sites to, read up more. It will build your confidence, and you'll be able to, say one or two things about, what you have learned. So back to our structure. So this is ISO 27002 2013 I structure in 2013 standard, which some organizations are still using. And then this is what you have on the right in the new, like I said, a number of new controls were introduced in the a number of new controls were introduced in the 2022 version. So, for example, threat intelligence. You won't find that anywhere in 27,000 and 2013 version. Okay. Web filtering. You won't find that in 2013 version. Secure coding, data masking, information deletion. These are some of the new controls that have been introduced in ISO 27001 2022 version. So this is another representation of the change. So typically we call them Annex 5, Annex 6. So why we call the normative clauses clause 4, clause 5, clause 6, clause 7, clause 8, and clause 10. The controls are referred to as annexures of controls, Annex 5, Annex 6. But then that's for 2013. For 2022, you have only Annex 5, Annex 6, Annex 7, and Annex 8, organized just into 4: organizational controls, people controls, fiscal controls, and technological controls. And from their name, you can kind of deduce what the controls are about. So under organizational controls, we are talking about controls around policy, around behavior, segregation of duties, and stuff like that. Under people controls, that one is I think Annex 7 or Annex 6 of 2013, which is human resource. They've changed the name. People controls, onboarding, during employment, after employment, controls around all that. Fiscal controls are about physical security, okay? And then technological controls are, of course, technical controls like your cryptography, encryption, web filtering, secure coding, access control, and all the other stuff. Okay, so that's all about ISO 27001. The certification is done every 3 years. However, organizations are meant to do what is called a surveillance audit every year within that 3 years. So if you are satisfied this year, you will do a surveillance audit. That surveillance audit is just to ensure that you are still in you are still complying to the requirements of ISO 27001, and that you can still maintain your certification. I think you'll do that for 2 years. I'm not sure now whether it's a year or 2 years. And then by the third year, you will have to do a recertification, a full certification again. Usually, there will be a stage 1 audit. The stage 1 audit is typically during an audit, especially if you are implementing it for the first time, what you do is to conduct a gap analysis. So if you want to implement ISO 27001 for Black and Scott, what we'll do is to conduct a gap analysis. What's a gap analysis? What is our current state? Okay. What is our desired state? We identify our current state, where we have, what do we have? Do we have these documents? Do we have these practices? How do we onboard people into Black and Scot? Do we have our website? What are the security controls around our website? All those stuff. Okay, we look at documents. What do we have at the moment? Meanwhile, we have identified our desired state. Our desired state is that we want to become ISO 27001 certified. We will study the requirements of ISO 27001, and then we'll now conduct a gap analysis. What is the gap? What do we need to do between where we are to take us to where we want to be? So once a gap analysis has been conducted, we now go about implementing, activities and processes to fill that gap. So usually a stage 1 audit will be done. And then, non-conformities that are identified in the stage 1 audit, you'll be given an opportunity to address them, and then a final stage 2, which will now determine whether you have been certified or not. Okay, I think we should move on from there to PCI DSS. Any question?
Yes, I have a question.
Right, please fire up.
Thank you so much for the education you're providing to us. You talked about stage 1 and stage 2 audit. Okay. Is the stage 1 conducted by internal auditors, or is that done by an external auditor? Who does, stage 1 or stage 2?
So it depends. But it is not done by an internal auditor. Okay. Your internal audit is part of your implementation process. Because as a matter of fact, as external auditors will be checking whether you have conducted an internal audit. So your internal audit is not just stage 1. Usually from practice, what I see that people do is that the stage 1 is, in general, the stage 1 will also be conducted by an external auditor. Okay. However, just in audit is not about, we are not trying to blame anybody in an audit. What we want an audit to do is to improve, the organization. Okay, that's the essence of audit. Okay, so the reason for stage 1, stage 2 is that, whatever non-conformity we have identified in stage 1, we are giving you an opportunity to address them. Okay, once they are addressed, the external auditors will now come back for a final stage 2 audit.
Okay, thank you so much. My final questions before I let you go. So which one should we be focusing on now, the 2013 or the 2022?
You should be focusing on the 2022.
Okay,
fantastic. Because 2013 will probably be alike to, it's like a man on death. What do they call it? Death row. Death row.
Yeah. Okay.
So we should be focusing on 2022. So that's even the more reason why I wanted to show you the differences, so that you can appreciate, and so that in case you get into situations where you are being hacked, you can confidently talk about the differences between 2013 and moreover, it was just released. 2022 was just last year, so I think it's still okay for us to know about 2013 version, but we should be focusing on 20. A lot of organizations are already moving to 2022. Okay, so we should be focusing on 2022.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hello, good evening. I have a question.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you for the session. It's been very informative. My question is, assuming my organization is one of the last people that got that decided to get certified against 2013, and then maybe next let's say 2025 now, they want to certify against 2022 standard. My question is, are they going to do surveillance audits, considering the fact that where they are coming from is 2013, and they're moving to 2022, or they will do certification afresh?
You will do recertification afresh. Reason is because it's a new standard. It's a new standard. So, for example, this is a practical example. My organization, we were certified. We were recertified in 2022. November 2022, we were recertified for ISO 27001 2013 version. Okay. As an organization, we have decided to transit immediately into 2022. So this year, we are not doing a surveillance audit. No. We are doing a full recertification audit because we are transiting into the updated version of 2022. So you won't be doing a surveillance audit. You'll be doing a full. So despite the fact that we just got certified against 2013 last year, management says that, fine, no problem. We want to be up to date as far as our information security program and compliance and stuff like that is concerned. So we are ready. And so we'll be doing a full audit for this 2022, a year just after our certification for 2013.
Oh, thank you so much. That answers my question.
Thank you.
Hi, please, I have a question. What's this surveillance audit, number one? And number two, whose responsibility is it within the organization to make sure if there's any update to the standard that it's acted upon in a timely manner?
I didn't get your second question very well. Can you please?
Okay, so there was the ISO 27013, the one for 2013, and then there's a review for 2022. So when the new review, the new standard came out, whose responsibility within the organization is to keep on top of when the standards are revised and new ones come and become available? Who is supposed to ensure that if there's a new standard, the organization is aware and then it's implemented?
Okay. I think I have an idea of what you're talking about. Okay. So to answer your first question, a surveillance audit, like I said briefly earlier, is like a part of your continuous evaluation process. Okay. It's not a full certification audit. Okay. It's not going to be as thorough as a full certification audit, but ISO says that we have to do it every year. Okay. And it's good because what it means is that organizations must, for example, if I can guarantee you, if not for the yearly surveillance audit, most organizations won't conduct their risk assessment, which according to ISO 27001 should be conducted at least once in a year. Okay, same with management review, stuff like that, But because there is always a surveillance audit in between the I'll confirm. I'll get back to us after I'll confirm whether it's I don't know why I forgot now. I think it should be 2 surveillance audit years between the recertification. So when you are certified, there'll be 2 years of surveillance audit, and then by the 4th year you have to do a recertification again. Unlike PCI DSS, which we are going to do now. PCI DSS is every year. Every year, it is a full, normal, thorough audit to comply, to be in compliance with PCI DSS. But for ISO 27000, so surveillance audit is not as thorough. We just want to check, okay? It's going to be lightweighted. sort of, okay, just check here and there. Have you done your risk assessment for this year? Okay, let's see the evidence, okay? And so that's the difference between your surveillance audit and your certification. Now, for the second question, if I understand you very well, I'm sure in the organization, you would have someone managing the information security program of the organization. So like I said earlier, when you implement ISO 27001, typically you will appoint an ISMS manager. As a matter of fact, I've seen some roles titled ISMS manager as in job ads, and I will say, and even if they don't name it ISMS manager, probably information security analyst, if you look at the main responsibility of the role, it will state that they need someone that will help the organization to be in compliance with ISO 27001. Okay, so they want someone who will manage the ISMS. Okay, so it is the responsibility of that person, but officially, it is the responsibility of the head of security, information security, depending on the title they've given. For big organization, it is the CISO. Okay, for banks, for big corporations, the CISO is in charge, is responsible. Okay, if show comes to show, is responsible for the information security program. So it is responsible. Of course, guy is a big guy or a big madam, sitting in the office. So of course, is GRC guys, okay, depending on the structure of the InfoSec team, would be the one to, make a case. Okay, so this is how it works. So there is a new standard now. I would expect that either the CISO, Director of Information Security, someone in the information security team who is in charge of your information security program, make a case that there is a new standard. There is a deadline till 2025. Okay, what are we doing? Okay, the CISO is closer to management. Okay, so I'm sure in a way the CISO can know whether management would want to entertain adopting the new one or still, lying low with 2013. I know a bank in Nigeria. I won't mention the name of the bank. They have a very, very beautiful CISO, very, very passionate about information security. When the new PCI DSS came out, they just like for the case of my organization too, they just I think they were already in the process of, conducting the yearly audit. Immediately the new one came out, they said no. And there was still a grace period too for PCI DSS. I think the PCI DSS, you have up to 2024. That's next year to transit into the version 4 version. Okay. So immediately the CISO said, because it's close, he knows that whatever he presents to senior executive management, they would take it. So your CISO knows the heart of senior management. You will be able to say whether executive management would accept to transit or they would not, because it is money. Money will be spent. Okay. So I don't know if I'm able to answer your question. It is responsibility of the head of security, director of information, depending on whatever role you call it, okay, to communicate to management that there is a new standard. This standard has been updated. And don't also forget that your regulators are watching. If you are a regulated industry, if it's a bank, for example, your regulator would have given you a timeline too, that guys, between now and now, make sure you comply with the new standard. If not, we'll be banging at your doors. Okay. So, of course, nobody wants to be fined. Nobody wants to be the scapegoat with regulators. Okay. So this is how a lot of these things plays out in reality. Did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's quickly move on to PCI DSS because I want us to finish PCI DSS so that by next week we can do cyber essentials, NIST, and CIS controls, and then we should move on to risk management. So PCI DSS, Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard. Now, I must say, why are we going through these frameworks? These are the frameworks that, you know, will be usually in the job ads you'll be applying for. Okay. Someone's mic is please mute your mic.
Please mute your mic, Stephen.
So these are the frameworks and standards that you know, you see in the HATs, you know, PCI DSS, Cyber Essentials, ISO 27001. I don't think there is any HAT on in GRC that you won't say ISO 27001. Okay. Cyber Essentials is coming up pretty fast because, you know, government wants to really push Cyber Essentials to businesses within the UK. Okay, PCI DSS very common with you know, organizations that accept card, airlines, you know, big retail organizations, you know, and stuff like that. So it's very essential that you know, you know these various standards and framework. So the payment card industry data standard, that's the full name for PCI DSS. Okay, it's a set of security standards designed to ensure that you know, companies that has anything to do with credit card information or anything that has to do with card information, whether it's credit card, whether it's whatever. Okay, whether you are storing it, whether you are transmitting it, whether you are processing it, whether you are accepting it, anywhere you are in that chain, okay, you must comply with, you know, the PCI DSS requirements. You know, it was not a thing before, but when credit card became a thing, you know, the issuers of these cards, American Express, Discover, JCB, MasterCard, Visa, they had to come together to form, you know, an organization was formed out of that collaboration, which is the PCI SSC. I'll be taking us through the website so that you can know, you know, where to, especially where to download, you know, the various documents, all the documents on PCI, unlike ISO that some people, some organizations are selling for PCI, they are available for free. Okay. And like I said earlier, the latest iteration of PCI DSS, that's the version 4, was released at the end of March last year. Yes, it was 2022. Yes, 2022, not 2021, like I said earlier. So this is the structure of PCI DSS, just like you have for ISO 27001. It's a set of 12 requirements, which you can see a set of 6 objectives, which you can see on your left, expanded into 12 requirements. Okay. So the first is build and maintain a secure network systems. Under that, you have, you know, install and maintain network security controls. There are a list of, just like ISO 27001, there are a list of controls under 1, under 2. If you go to protect account data, number 3, protect stored account data, there are a list of controls on how you must implement protection on stored account data. Okay. For card information, there are some aspects of your card information that are allowed to be stored. There are certain aspects that must not be stored. Okay. Take, for example, your CVC. That's the 3 numbers, the 3-digit codes at the back of your card. Under no, there is no condition that must be stored by any card processing or whatever organization, it must not be stored. Your name can be stored, but it must be anonymized. Okay, these are some of the requirements to see when you get into the full detail. Your PAN can be stored, but you can't store the full PAN. Okay, so you get to some if you remember, for those who are familiar with the Nigerian system, if you go to the bank and you want to collect a card or something, when you are writing your PAN, okay, you are told not to write your full PAN. Rather, you should write the last 4 digits of your PAN. All this are as a result of controls, okay, to protect card information, okay, and it's one of the requirements of PCI DSS. If you look at any documentation on your computer, probably you receive a mail from your bank. They are not allowed to write your full PAN, okay, even though they are sending your email to you, because email is not a secure means of transmitting data, okay. So they are supposed to only state the four. All these are as a result of controls as required by PCI DSS. There is even one that must be implemented so that if you have card information, for example, let's use PAN again, inside the body of a mail, and you try to send that mail from a system to someone to another person, okay, especially if it is external, that mail will not go. These are some of the requirements, okay, or these are some of the things the auditor will check, okay. They want to see demonstrated that, okay, if peradventure card data is transmitted from your system, okay, what's going to happen? If you demonstrate that, whether through Teams or through Zoom, and then you type in any number that looks like a PAN, and then you send it and it goes, that's a control failure as far as PCI DSS is concerned, and that needs to be addressed for you to be in compliance with PCI DSS. So this is basically the structure of PCI DSS, 6 control objectives, expanded into okay, let me take us to the website. Let me show you some. Okay, I think it's PCI security. Okay, yeah. So this is the PCI website. A lot of information you can, but most importantly, I just want us to show how you can get those documents. So just come to resources. Documents library, and then you can download whatever. There are so many documents. Okay, this is the version 4. If you want to download the version 4, which I suggest and advise, I recommend that you download and go through the entire document. Going through the document, that's one beauty about a lot of these standards. It makes you understand cybersecurity more. Reason is because you are reading about controls, how controls are implemented, okay? So it makes you understand, even without reading Security Plus, without reading CISSP, for example, I recommend that you read the NIST Cybersecurity Framework, okay? Very, very rich document. Even the abstract and introduction alone will give you lots of insights into the need for cybersecurity, the need to protect information, how you go about protecting information and stuff like that. Okay, so this is the version 4. And if you want the version 3.2.1, this is it. Just select and download. PCI DSS summary of changes. If you want to understand the changes from 3.2.1 to 4, which might not be necessary, just focus on version 4. You can download that. Another thing you might be interested here is on the PCI DSS quick reference guide. Okay, you might want to download that. Version 4 at a glance. ROC will come to this as we go about. Okay, that's PCI SSC website for you. Okay, so there are compliance levels in PCI DSS because organizations are not the same. Okay, this compliance levels is largely determined by the number of card transactions that an organization carries out in a year. Okay, so because of that disparity, there are various compliance levels, okay, that has been placed depending on the volume of your card transaction. Of course, when we're talking about frameworks and regulations, I did mention that even though PCI DSS is not a law, okay, it is an industry-based standard that has been enforced by contracts between payment brands, merchants, and acquiring banks. So this is what it means. If you set up a bank today, because you'll be issuing cards to your customers, okay, these cards will be supplied by likes of MasterCard and Visa, for example, in the United Kingdom. Okay, MasterCard and Visa would require that you are PCI DSS compliant. Okay, so that's different. I try to make that difference between PCI DSS and some other standards where it's possible for you to adopt a standard. My organization is not a regulated organization. We are regulated, but there is no special regulation apart from GDPR, ICO. The industry is not on the line where my company is anyway. We don't have that special regulator. But we adopted ISO 27001 because likely because it helps you to stand out. You can use it as a marketing stuff that you are taking information security serious. And then also a lot of our clients, okay, because we process data in a way, a lot of our clients would want us to demonstrate our information security by showing something that yes, we are ISO 27001 certified, but we still have a choice, okay, whether we want to implement ISO 27001. But PCI DSS, that's not the case, okay. If you want to do the business of card processing, card production, accepting cards on your POS, and that you have to comply with PCI DSS. So as a merchant, for example, let's take, for example, Walmart. Walmart does not have a direct connection to MasterCard or Visa, but Walmart has a direct connection to a bank, okay? Going by the volume of card transactions that Walmart will be processing, the bank would request that Walmart be PCI DSS compliant, okay? And that's why Walmart has to be PCI DSS compliant. Same thing goes with the bank. Bank has the direct connection to the card producers, which is MasterCard and Visa. And then they would insist that if you want to do this business, you have to be compliant. So these are the various compliance levels. I don't think it has changed. So if you're a merchant, and you process more than 6 million transactions in a year, you are in level 1. And if you look down, there is a condition for level 1. So there's something called ROC and AOC. ROC is report on compliance. AOC is attestation of compliance. After all the compliance efforts are done, you've been audited. Okay, while talking about audit, now, in ISO 27001 audit, you have certifying bodies, okay, like NQA, PECB, BSI, and organizations like that. These organizations have auditors, okay, who have been certified. They would have been certified. If you remember, we mentioned ISO, is it 27006 or something, okay? That spells out requirements for organizations who are certification organizations for ISO 27001. So now that one of their requirements is that an auditor that is auditing ISO 27001, of course, must have gone through training and be certified, okay? For PCI DSS, it's not just anybody that can audit any organization for PCI DSS compliance. So just like ISO 27001, PCI SSC, the website that I showed you earlier, has a training where they issue certificates to certain persons who have gone through training and then are qualified to conduct PCI DSS or whatever form of, because PCI DSS is not the only, I can go back to that website. PCI DSS is not the only certification being managed by PCI SSC. There are others, okay, for those involved with POS terminal production, okay, they have their own certification. For example, Valve Card, if you know Valve in Nigeria, Valve Card is a card production company, okay? Those kind of companies have their own kind of certifications, also managed by PCI SSC, okay? It's called PCP, payment card production, something, I can't remember the full name now. So there are other kinds of, certifications under PCI SSC, okay? So PCI SSC has a training program, okay, where they certify people and organizations who can audit other organizations for PCI DSS compliance. And those people are what we call qualified security assessors, okay? So, for example, your organization, the management of your organization has decided to, do a self-assessment, because you can do a self-assessment depending on, your level, okay? If you look at level 4, for instance, if you are a merchant in level 4, you are doing less than 20K transactions a year. All you need to do is SAQ and ASB scan. That SAQ means self-assessment questionnaire. What that means is that you don't need a report of compliance, which is a massive document, okay, that a qualified assessor will certify that you have gone through a thorough audit on PCI DSS requirements, okay? Attestation of compliance is the actual certificate that, okay, yes, PCI SSC has certified you as PCI DSS compliant. But for a level 4 merchant who does less than 20K transactions in a year, all you need to do is to do an SAQ. It's called self-assessment questionnaire. The document is available on, PCI SSC. You go through, you answer the questions, and then this self-assessment questionnaire will now be signed by a qualified security assessor. Now, for the qualified security assessor, usually what you have is that you have a qualified security assessor company and a qualified security assessor individual. So a qualified as far as I know, a qualified security assessor cannot work alone. You have to work in an organization that is a qualified security assessor organization. So on the PCI SSC website, if you want to if you want to be in compliance with PCI DSS probably for the first time, there is a list you can download where you will see all companies throughout the world that are qualified security assessor companies, and they are divided into regions. So there are companies who focus mainly on Africa, okay, and probably Middle East. There are those who focus on Europe and probably UK. There are those who focus on America and North America and South America, like that. So you can select any of those companies and contact them. Okay, and the person that will be coming must hold a certification as a qualified security assessor. So it's not just anybody that can conduct a PCI compliance. No, that person has to be a qualified security assessor. Also, there is something called internal security assessor. So, for example, you are in a merchant for company, and you only need to do a self-assessment questionnaire and an ASV scan. ASV scan is another thing for that is penetration testing. You can see it as penetration testing. Okay, so if you have two choices. It's either you get a consultant who is a qualified security assessor, pay the person money, or you probably train one of your information security guys as an internal security assessor. So by being a certified internal security assessor, okay, that person can, by virtue of his experience and his knowledge, can actually do that self-assessment work, audit the organization, fulfill the requirements and certify that this audit is thorough and that you are complying with the requirements of PCI DSS. So these are for, the first one is for merchants, second one for service providers. Service providers probably include, banks, fintechs, and stuff like that. And, they also have their compliance levels. You shouldn't, for interview purposes or for knowledge, you shouldn't really, just to tell you that there are various levels of compliance, and if you are fortunate to work for an organization where PCI DSS is one of the things you'll be managing, of course, this information will come handy. Okay. Of course, benefits of PCI DSS compliance: you're able to reduce data breaches, data theft, it enhances customer trust. I don't know what this means. You're able to comply with legal and industry regulations, and you're able to avoid fines. If you read the introductory part of the version 4 document, you will learn a lot of things about, the steps towards compliance, the role of network segmentation to reduce your scope, because one key thing in PCI DSS compliance is that everywhere, one of the things the auditor will be checking, they will be requesting for your network diagram and your data flows. So you want to know everywhere that card information flows through. Okay, we want to really have that understanding of your network. Okay, and everywhere you are either storing or processing card information, all those areas must be within scope of PCI DSS. So what most organizations, and the larger the scope, the more expensive, okay, your compliance effort is going to take. So what organizations do is to use network segmentation. So you want to segment your card network to one side so that your card network is, as much as you can, is different from other networks, so that you can adequately protect cardholder data as far as PCI DSS compliance is concerned. Okay, like I said, I want us to, okay, even time is already fast spent. Any question, please?